This episode is brought to you by Dwell, New Jersey. Steph Mann and her team are helping you buy, sell, and enjoy life in New Jersey. Check them out if you need help with pre-listing services, home renovation consultation, finding a realtor, closet edits, and small business consultation. I know Steph personally, and she is amazing, so make sure that you check them out at dwellnewjersey.com. Welcome to this episode of That Westfield Podcast. Today we're joined by Francesco from Farinolio. Benvenuto, my friend. How are you?
Grazie, Amanda.
Was that okay?
I'm doing very well. That's perfect.
I need to really work on the Italian. I feel like it's such a beautiful language. You have to know at least a handful.
You know where to go.
Of words,
right?
Yes. Will you teach me?
Practice. Okay, I can practice all the time at Farinolio.
All right. That's, actually very helpful. So I'm really glad to have you. You are one of my favorite restaurants in town, and I just appreciate what you guys do so much. So very grateful to have you here, and I cannot wait for you to tell everybody about what you guys do. So if you haven't been to Farinolio yet, it's on East Broad Street, right? So next to you're next to Chipotle and
121 East Broad Street.
Okay, cool. So right smack in the middle of the downtown, you really can't miss it. You have a beautiful black awning. When you step into your store, it's literally just like you walked into a completely different country, which obviously is Italy, right? So tell us a little bit more about what it is that Farinolio does and how it came to be.
So Farinolio, it's very hard to describe because it's, when you say cafe bakery, which usually people think of us as a cafe bakery before they actually see the place. But it doesn't really give it justice because it's more than just a cafe bakery. It's an idea, it's a concept. It's a way to welcome people to our culture, or my culture. So the way that I was raised, I in Italy, in Florence, and I grew up. Something that I wanted to share with other people in the US. So it's a concept. Again, it's really hard to explain. But cafe bakery would be part of it.
Right.
Part of it.
So you just told us that you grew up in Florence, Italy. What is the inspiration that you wanted to bring from home to here that was the most important?
So the key idea, the basic idea was the schiacciata, the flatbread that we use to make sandwiches. And we started with that. And that concept evolved into something a lot bigger and more complex as we started to conceive the idea and then actually operate the business. When we opened, we thought there's more to it. It's not just a piece of bread. It's a culture. It's a way of life. It's a way of living. That we want to connect. We want to connect people to that idea, not just to that piece of bread. Piece of bread becomes like a vehicle a key to the culture.
Right. And how is that bread different from what people can expect from other Italian bakeries? Because it is very different. It's very soft on the inside, harder on the outside, and literally one of the best tasting things I've ever had.
So schiacciata belongs to the family of focaccia, and you'll find focaccia used, misused in many different ways. Usually what you find in a lot of stores in the US when they say focaccia is a very thick and soft bread. In Tuscany, it's different. It's tend to be not as thick, but and very crisp. We don't put oil in the baking, in the mix, but the oil is only brushed on the surface of the bread. Very close to what in Rome called white pizza or pizza bianca, right? So close to that concept, but different from the focaccia. And focaccia, again, there can be so many different things. Just to give you an idea of the schiacciata, just in Tuscany, there are 617 names to call the same product, which is not exactly the same. But again, depends on what part of the region, of the Tuscan region you go, you may find a different name.
That's super cool. One of the things I love most about what you guys do is how fresh your ingredients are, and you import pretty much everything, right? It's something that you don't really find anywhere around here. There's so many, Italian bakeries, especially growing up in North Jersey, right? There's so many different places you can go, and everybody has their favorite. But the way we do things here and the way it's been generationally done for 2 or 3 generations here is so different from what you guys do. There's definitely this like North Jersey Italian culture that I grew up in, and it's great. It tastes good, but there's something that you guys do that you just really bring this element of freshness that not everybody else does.
Well, I think we just wanted to be different. I'm not disparaging anybody else. So I don't want to make comparison against an Italian-American product, an Italian-American product, because they're different. So what I wanted to share is my culture, what I grew up with, and which I couldn't find in the U.S.,
right.
or I couldn't find it done the right way. And that's why I decided why don't we do it?
Right.
And yes, we import all the ingredients. We buy the majority of them we buy through distributors that are specialty distributors. And then there are two key ingredients that we actually import. And by the way, it's also important to the name because the name Farinolio was a made-up name of two Italian words. Flour, farina, olio, oil. So Farinolio, we combined them so that I could trademark the name. And those, by the way, are the two ingredients that we import directly. The flour comes from a company called Pasini, Molino Pasini. Molino stands for mill. And then the oil comes from a little town outside of Florence called San Casciano Valdipesa.
Right.
We know the trees, we know the owner, and I buy that directly, so import directly that oil.
That's so cool. So how much time did you spend, in Italy looking for these producers of stuff that you wanted to bring here? Was it something you just kind of knew about, or you actually had to do a lot of research to bring things over here?
That's a very good question. So it took me about 6 years from conception to execution of the idea, to the point that nobody believed me anymore, including my wife. I thought it's never going to happen, right? Because, it's taking too long. But of course I had a full-time job, which I still do, by the way. And it took time. I didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur, even a small one. I didn't know anything about the food industry, except that I love food and I love good food, and I'm very meticulous about my food. So I had to do a lot of work on research to study from the ingredients, from the format of the place, the brand, what I wanted to, what I really wanted to conceive, what I wanted to develop, what was the final idea. So it took me, again, 5 years to do that.
Wow.
And I started with the brand book. Business plan was the second step, but the brand book was the first step. And that's why the Farinolio and the idea behind Farinolio and what I wanted to accomplish with Farinolio was very, very important. Because if that wasn't clear to me, it wouldn't have been clear to anybody else.
That is such an excellent way to describe it. I think a lot of people start businesses and they're so worried about just how do I make money, right? They don't really think about the culture or the brand so much, or they figure the brand will be developed, as you go. And sometimes that's true, but for what you did, I think that's just so excellent. You just put in so much time and energy into actually figuring it out early on and showing that message through your food and even your staff, right? Like I love the way that your staff dresses, right? You have these beautiful uniforms and those really clean aprons. It feels very authentic, and it's really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. So your lovely wife, Annette, who is one of my favorite people in town. Hi, Annette. She's the producer on the show today. I have heard some great stories about how she helped you develop this. Like, it was taking classes. Tell me a little bit more about, again, the preparation behind Farinolio.
So I think Annette, before she thought this was actually going to be real, I said, why not taking some classes about baking? So I'm going to learn something, I'm going to spend time. But it wasn't yet close to happen. It was like 2 years before we opened. But Annette has been obviously the ideal partner in the venture. Again, the ideal, not even aware of at some point that she was going to be a partner in this venture, but she was, first of all, the support that she gave me, which is essential. If you don't have a support of your partner for life, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So, and then she's been critical to the success of the venture, because without her, probably it may not have been here. The reason why I'm very creative, but at the same time not super organized, and I need somebody that can give structure to what I conceive.
That's great. Yeah, it's hard to do everything by yourself. I was on a podcast this morning literally talking about that same exact thing, where you can only do so much by yourself, and if you don't have a strong partner and a strong team behind you, it's almost impossible to keep it going for a really long time and to keep it at the level of operation that you need it to in order to succeed. So you have another partner as well, right? Laura, who runs the events. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Laura Orlando is she's behind all the social media, the events that we create at Farinolio, and we met her. The first meeting was actually Annette that met her because Laura used to work for a cooking school in Madison.
Cool.
And Annette went to one of the classes. She loved the class and she loved Laura. Then Laura and her husband Paolo came to start coming to Farinolio for breakfast and lunch because they loved it. They said, "Oh, finally, I find a piece of Italy that resembles what we know." And then one day I said, "Laura, I think you need to join the project." And it was right before COVID, the ideal time to think about events, right? In fact, we started to plan a lot of events and we had to cancel, not the next day, but in a month.
Right.
But Laura has been, again, another key, important partner in this venture. And she embraced the concept and the idea without a lot of explanation.
Right. She just got it.
She just got it.
That's great.
And you need people that just get it. Mm-hmm. When you have to explain too much, it becomes really challenging. So.
That's so funny. So actually just signed up for one of your really great events, and it's a pizza date night cooking class. And I actually didn't know that you guys did these events. Obviously, I was in a hole myself for several years. I didn't go out very much. But once I saw that, I was like, that's so great, because there's honestly sometimes not that much stuff to do in town that is just easy to do. It doesn't take up a lot of time. You don't have to travel to the city. It's just the perfect event for people who just want something fun to do and learn a skill, right? I think what you do is just so beautiful, because it's something everyone thinks that they know how to cook, or they could do certain things, but this is just a whole other level of teaching what you guys do from the heart, which I think is really exciting. So I cannot wait for that event. Even though I can't really eat pizza, I'm very much looking forward to kneading some dough and playing around with it. And maybe I'll have a little bit, because I will say, for someone who doesn't eat gluten, your bread is the only bread I have eaten in the last couple of years, and I didn't react to it. So I think obviously that has to do with how it's produced over there, the flour, as opposed to here. Is that something you hear very often, that people with gluten intolerance or celiac disease can sometimes have some of your products?
We had many customers coming to us, many guests. I like to call them guests because I see Farinolio as almost an extension of our home. And telling us impromptu, I never asked the question. I said, why, they were asking the question, why do I eat your bread and I don't get sick? And I know that I'm intolerant to gluten. And I said, I don't know. I think I know, but I cannot tell you because I cannot make medical claims. So it's true. There's no, the flour is flour. There's no processing. We do not add any gluten-free, dry gluten to make it easier to work with.
It's not fortified like things are here, right?
So that's one thing that I can tell you. There's no preservatives. We do use, there are 3 key ingredients, period. We don't use anything else. Even the water is purified.
Wow.
The water in the store is purified and the pH adjusted for the baking of the bread. So there's a lot of details that go into the production of a simple piece of bread. And that may explain the reason why. Obviously, I would never make the medical claim, and I would tell any celiac stay away from it. Because again,
I think
if you have an intolerance, it's different. But if you have a disease and it's diagnosed, it's a different story.
I'm convinced that I can heal myself from gluten intolerance, and one day I will eat your bread again. But moving on. So your events. You have how does somebody sign up for the events on your page? Do they just go to your website?
Go to the website, private events, and you'll find all the events that we organize, and we also do private events. So a lot of the events are custom, bespoke to the customer's need, to our guest needs. So it could be a birthday.
I can call you and say I want to have a party here.
Laura would be your point of contact, and she'll work with you to design something that works for you.
What's the max number of people you can fit?
That's unfortunately the limit of our space right now. We've been hosting a max of 25 people if it's private.
That's a good number.
But if it's just a cooking lesson, we usually don't do more than 14, 15.
Right.
16 of them.
Some elbow room, right?
We cannot inflate it, expand that space, unfortunately. So we're looking to open other spaces, but that's a space. So we have to work with that space.
No, it's pretty good. I think 25 is a nice size for an event, definitely. Okay, so we do know that you have catering, which is really great. This episode is airing on December 18th, so if you are a last-minute person like I am, there's still time to come in the day before, to pick up your Christmas pastries and stuff. What are your holiday hours so people know?
The holiday hours we're not going to change. I think it's only the day before Christmas. And it's a good question that you ask. Because I don't even remember what the holiday hours are.
All right, well, check the website.
But check the website. I think we close at 1 the 24th.
Okay.
So we take the
Christmas
orders.
Eve.
And I believe that's when we close.
I already have a mouthful of lots of antipasto by then, by 1 o'clock on Christmas Eve. Right, yeah, your pastries are really great. Tell us about some of the cookies and stuff that you guys make too that are unique to your brand.
Well, again, one is the cantucci. First of all, let me say something about the word, an Italian word, biscotti. Okay, so biscotti is the general word in Italy for cookies, right? So in the Italian American version, biscotto is a specific kind of cookie,
right.
What we call
yes.
it in Italy. That kind of shape is called cantuccio in Tuscany, and it's different. The taste is different. There's no, I think it's anise that they use. Yeah. We don't. So it's made with almonds. The traditional cantuccio, which is again a Tuscan specialty, it's made with almonds. But lately we made 3 more versions, and you can make many more as well. One with hazelnuts, one with chocolate chips, and the other one with pistachio, which is wonderful. Again, that's one. The other one, very popular cookie or biscotto, is the shortbread. And we make shortbread with jam, raspberry, and blackberry and apricot, if I remember correctly. And then we make the one, which is my favorite, with dipped in chocolate, and one with Nutella. Which and then the famous one, especially with kids, is the star. With powdered sugar on top.
Right.
Those are very popular with our guest, our young guest. The young guest.
One thing I appreciate about what you guys do is just the display. The display is always so beautiful. You know, you go into a lot of places and sometimes, you know, it's like half full or there's crumbs everywhere. Every single time I go into your place, it's perfect. It's just so meticulous. And I really appreciate that because it's just so appetizing for the eyes, right? Just seeing all these sandwiches stacked up and all the cookies stacked. And it just makes me want to eat everything.
Well, when you go back to Farinolio, what is it? It's an experience. Experience, you're using all your senses, right? So your sight, your nose, your touch, and everything has to work together at the same time. So you start eating with your eyes. So if something looks good, then your appetite is actually you'd like to try, right? So the sound that comes from, we use Italian radio 24 hours, not to 24 hours a day because we're not open 24 hours a day, but we 7 days a week when you come to the store, there is usually a Radio Italia that plays music. So because we want to kind of reach out to all your senses, make sure that all your senses are engaged in the experience of Farinolio. When I say it's a concept, because you experience Farinolio. You don't eat at Farinolio. You just experience Farinolio. The event, it's an experience that brings you closer to, or close to Italy, or Tuscany, but Italy in general. So that's a key, going back when you ask me the question, what is Farinolio? Experience would, I know it would be still hard to explain or understand, but it's a very important concept.
I think it's great when something doesn't always have to be explained, right? So I think that's something we've lost in our culture where everyone just wants to look something up on a website and look at pictures and try to get a feel for something before they go and experience it. And it's like, just go experience it. Just be present. Experience the people around you. I mean, I love when I walk into your place and I would say probably 8 times out of 10, I hear someone speaking a different language in there, which is really, really cool. And just the details. The first time I ever walked into Farinolio, my eyes were just catching all the small details. Like you could just tell how much you guys really put into the design and the thought of everything. And it's just rare. It's really nice. Well,
again, Annette has been very, very involved in all the choices that we made. The design was done by a professional. We didn't just design the logo. I came up with the name, but the logo was done professionally done by Ken, the designer. That's what he does, and he's a partner of one of our daughters. So it's also nice. We kept everything in the family, but did a phenomenal job with the logo. And And then, the research of the packaging, making sure that the packaging looks right. It's not just, the color is very simple. It's black and white, right? More simple, it can be simpler than that. But, the shape of the packaging, the way that you package the biscotti or the cantucce in different ways. And we always research. It's never over. It's like, I don't see this as we reach destination. It's a journey. You keep going and looking for ideas. How do we improve? Even the product, how do we make it even better?
Wow.
So you never stop and say, okay, now we're done. So.
That's the killer of business, right? And I think that's something people don't realize when they get into it. They just think, oh, I need to get up and running. And it's like, no, you constantly have to innovate in any business, right? Not even just...
I recently listened to an interview to Steve Jobs, which is, I take a lot of inspiration from Steve Jobs. And he said about starting a business. Starting a business, said it's the hardest thing that you can possibly do in your life.
Yeah.
Said if, he mentioned that he talked to a lot of people that didn't, say, I want to start a business. And he was asking the question, so what kind of business did you start? I don't know. I want to make money. So that's the wrong way to do it.
Right.
What really helped us, and I say us because I involved my wife, to get to where we are, was the fact that you're in love with what you've done. We didn't pay ourselves for 5 years. That's why I kept my full-time job, because I wanted everything to be reinvested. If I were a billionaire, I would probably done this for free. Right. But I couldn't afford it. It's not sustainable.
Right.
But that's what drives you and makes you go through days that are very long, challenges of all kind. You all of a sudden you're in charge of HR, finance, and marketing, and sales, and real estate. So you have to do so many things at the same time. And by the way, I also had a full-time job, by the way. So if you don't love it, don't do it.
Exactly.
I would give me advice to anybody that wants to start a business. If you don't really love what you do and you love the idea, do something else with your life. I
am totally in agreement with you on that one. People really need to think very hard and long about what they're going to do, and if it's really the thing that they want to do, because it takes a lot of sacrifice, and it's not always fun and exciting. Actually, most of the time it's not fun and exciting. It's not. But you make a commitment to it, right? And then you see it out. What are some of your other favorite places in town? Where do you like to go when you don't feel like having,
I don't like to say any names. No, because I think it's unfair if I say one or the other, because we try, a bunch of them. When we have time, because we don't live in Westfield, so we live a favorite or like a Spice Bazaar. We like Indian sometimes to try, once in a while. They do a great job. Adam's Tavern, and we like the ambiance of Adam's Tavern. So, again, we don't go out that much, as you can imagine, because by the end of the day, driving or to another place, we make our own food, so we go out only to socialize. But we tried, various places in town. Right. So 2024, I hear you guys have some big plans on the horizons. Is there anything you want to share with us? So we signed the lease for another location in New Jersey. We're actually exploring a third location, and I'm working on a plan to do even more than those, if everything goes right. But that was the idea from the beginning. The idea was, let me create something that works. And then if that works, I'd love to share that with more people. Congratulations. That is super exciting. So I'm not going to say where, but it's not far from Westfield. If you want to know where, make sure you're following Farinolio on Instagram, because I'm sure they will announce it in a little while, and you'll be one of the first to know, right? Yeah. That's how they find out. Absolutely. All right, Francesco, thank you so much. This was awesome. Please let everyone know where they can find you. Your website, Instagram, I just said, so it's farinolio.com. It's farinolio.com, very easy, and you'll find all the information on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram, so you can find it. We're on LinkedIn. We're not doing a lot of work on LinkedIn, but we're on LinkedIn as well. And 121 East Broad Street in Westfield, New Jersey. We're there, again, 7 days a week from 7:30 to 4, and then we're open for events, private events, or events that are organized for the public, that are all available online. So you can online, find them, book your whatever you like. And you have an email list, correct? So if people sign up for that, they'll be notified of everything? Yep. A lot of our
list.
guests are on our mailing list. They receive all information about everything we do.
Great. All right, guys.
First to know.
You heard the man. Go sign up at farinolio.com, farinolio.com. We'll put all the links in the show notes. Francesco, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. I always enjoy talking with you.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.